What if Germany and Russia, two historic rivals, had joined forces before World War I? Not just shaking hands or signing vague agreements, but a full alliance that could have rewritten what we know about the 20th century. This is not just a story of diplomacy, but a tale of power, ambition, suspicion, and the fragile line between peace and devastating war.
Setting the stage, a continent on edge. At the turn of the 20th century, Europe was a delicate system of alliances and rivalries, with nationalism burning brightly across the continent. The German Empire, unified less than 50 years earlier under Otto von Bismarck's brilliant diplomacy, had quickly industrialized and become a dominant military power. Meanwhile, Russia, sprawling across two continents, was ruled by an autocratic czar seeking to modernize and protect its vast territories.
Europe wasn't just a patchwork of alliances, but a pressure cooker filled with old grudges and competing ambitions. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, a complex and multi-ethnic state, was struggling to hold on, its leaders fearful of Slavic nationalism and the growing demands for independence in its territories, especially in the Balkans, where Serbia was stirring trouble. Bismarck himself had recognized the danger of a two-front war and carefully crafted a balance. He built alliances that intended to keep Russia neutral and avoid a conflict that would pit Germany between Russia in the east and France in the west. But after Bismarck was pushed out, Kaiser Wilhelm II took a more aggressive tone, and the careful diplomacy began to unravel.
The secret break in history. Could Germany and Russia have formed a true alliance? What if instead of tearing the reinsurance treaty apart in 1890, Germany sought to rebuild trust with Russia? What if the two countries, either through shared enemies or pragmatic leaders, convinced each other to align politically, militarily, and economically?
The key question: how could two powers, historically suspicious of each other, overcome years of mistrust? On one side were Russian fears of German ambitions in Eastern Europe. On the other, Germany worried about Russia's rapid military expansion and unpredictable politics. But pragmatism might have overridden emotion. Both empires could see that France and Britain were the common threats. France, still bitter over losing Alsace-Lorraine to Germany, was allied with Russia and Britain, forming a network aimed at containing Germany's rise. The British Empire feared Germany's naval buildup and ambitions. The players behind the scenes. Imagine Kaiser Wilhelm II, a man craving glory, but also sensitive to Germany's geopolitical plight, deciding to pivot. He could have reached out to Tsar Nicholas II, a ruler under pressure from internal revolutions and hungry to protect his empire. Behind palace walls and in secret meetings, ambitious diplomats would draft treaties promising mutual defense, economic cooperation, and shared military plans.
Prominent figures such as Helmuth von Moltke and Alfred von Tirpitz in Germany, and Sergei Witte or Grand Duke Nicholas Nikolaevich in Russia would argue about terms. Would Germany accept Russian dominance in the Balkans in return for Russian backing against France and Britain? Could Russia and Germany jointly reshape the fate of Central and Eastern Europe? Rewiring the alliance network.
This would cause a complete redraw of Europe's alliances. Austria-Hungary would become isolated, possibly collapsing without German backing. The Ottoman Empire might seek alignment with Britain or France, or even try to play the German-Russian alliance against its adversaries. Britain, traditionally the hegemon of the seas, would face the grim prospect of an empire spanning from the North Sea to the Black Sea. The military dimension, a powerful new alliance. Picture combined German and Russian military doctrine and resources. The German army with its highly trained, efficient, and modernized forces, Russia's enormous manpower stretching across its massive empire. Coordinated naval strategies between German and Russian fleets challenging British dominance at sea.
This alliance could shut down France's chance of opening a Western front, forcing it into dangerous diplomatic isolation or prompting desperate tactical gambits. What about the Balkans? The Balkans were a volatile tinderbox. Serbia's nationalist ambitions aimed at uniting Slavic peoples, often clashing with Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire. If Germany and Russia were aligned, their policies toward the Balkans would be crucial. Would Germany allow Russia free rein there, preventing the Austria-Hungary crisis that sparked the war? Or would internal competition eventually drive a wedge between the allies?
Either way, a Germany-Russia alliance means the Sarajevo assassination might not have escalated to war. Austria-Hungary, without Germany's full support, might have acted more cautiously. The new diplomacy, could tension be managed? With Germany and Russia working together, the diplomatic landscape would shift dramatically. Instead of an arms race feeding paranoia, there's a potential for joint disarmament initiatives or shared intelligence designed to restrain smaller conflicts.
But alliances are tricky. Would other powers trust this new bloc? Would Britain, feeling threatened, escalate its military spending? How would France react? Would it seek rapprochement with Britain or try to carve new alliances with smaller powers? An avoided Great War. The commonly accepted cause of WW1 was a complex set of alliances transforming a regional conflict into a world war. Could a German-Russian alliance have prevented the war? Most likely yes, or at least delayed it. Europe's focus might have turned towards economic competition or colonial disputes rather than total war. However, the possibility of war breaking out later due to other triggers would remain high.
The alternate war. If the Great War did occur, the fronts, battles, and outcomes could be unrecognizable. Instead of the horrendous slog of trench warfare across Belgium and France, fighting could concentrate in Eastern Europe or the Balkans. The combined German-Russian military might makes quick victories possible. Britain and France's role would diminish or shift, altering their post-war status and colonial empires. The aftermath. How would this shape the world? If this alliance endured, no massive post-war destabilization of Russia, so possibly no Bolshevik revolution. Germany and Russia potentially act as co-leaders of a new European order. Borders of Poland, the Ottoman successor states, and Austria-Hungarian successor states could look completely different.
If the alliance broke down, the timing and nature of conflicts would shift, possibly delaying global warfare or spawning more localized but devastating fights. Would this alternate history be one of peace or simply a different war waiting to happen? History shows us the delicate nature of diplomacy and the chaos beneath the surface of grand alliances. Germany and Russia joining before WW1 stands as one of the greatest what-ifs in modern history, its consequences rippling through politics, military strategy, society, and even the fate of everyday people.
Subscribe now for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries and alternate paths.